the first thing I wanted to say on tape is that we are doing this for the Alumni History Project. We do plan to archive the entire interview at the University Archives. It will not be made available to, we're not going to stream it in its entirety on the website. We may excerpt small clips of it to use on the history website. Clearly, we're here to make people happy about the Alumni Association.
Okay.
So I just wanted you to know that.
Okay.
And feel free to do this too. Feel free to talk about anything you'd like to during the interview. I'll ask you some questions, and you can just take them as points. Okay. Were there other volunteers that you'd like to mention that you dealt with when you were president?
You know, when I was president back in 1989, the Alumni Association was almost, even though it had been around for a long time, in terms of the modern Alumni Association, when I became president, I think that the Alumni Association bore no resemblance to the active organization it is today. But some of the names and folks that I remember working with, certainly Bob Lovett, who was at that time my colleague, and others who then went on to become president later on, Woody Turner, I think Cecile Springer, I remember, and of course the staff of the Alumni Association at that time was minuscule compared to the organization that we have today, and I don't believe any of those individuals are still with us. I remember Roy Nerschel was someone who was around, and I'm drawing a blank even on some of the other staff. There weren't that many, so it really was a much different organization, and I would say an organization in its infancy in terms of modern alumni associations. We had no dues structure at the time. That came much later with later leaders, and we had board. Of course, there was a board structure, and you had, I think, a lot of active, already some active alumni clubs across the country, and several in the Pittsburgh area. So I think the leadership, a lot of the leadership, the Alumni Association, as I think it still does today, wound its way up or worked their way up through the regional clubs. But we certainly didn't have nearly as many national clubs, and that movement was just getting underway as well. But there were some outstanding alumni leaders all over the country who it was a pleasure to get to know and work with.
Were there accomplishments during your tenure that you'd like to share?
You know, accomplishments, I mean, there's the thing of being president of the Alumni Association, and I believe it's still this way, the term is 1 year, so it's almost as if, that year is over before you've, had an opportunity, or you turn around and the year is over. The one thing I do remember is I think at the time that I became president of the Alumni Association, there was somewhat of a sort of a division, friendly division, but between the alums who were active in athletics and in the, I can't remember if we still called it Golden Panthers at the time, and then the traditional Alumni Association. And I was on the athletic side. My involvement in alumni matters for the university was with the Golden Panther organization. And I do believe that one of the reasons that I became president of the Alumni Association, and it's not something I ran for, I had not held a series of offices in the Alumni Association. I was asked to serve as president of the Alumni Association, or was elected. I think one of the reasons was to try to bridge the gap and bring together those alumni who were active in athletics with the traditional Alumni Association, and I think that was the start of that. And today I think we have certainly a unified group of alumni, all of whom are crazy, or at least most of us are crazy about athletics, but also crazy about the other wonderful things that are going on at the university in academics and research, et cetera. And as we sit here in this beautiful honors college, so I think we have a lot to be proud of. But that's what I believe, in sort of accomplishment, maybe being part of bridging that gap and bringing the athletic alumni into the mainstream of the alumni organization.
Did you face challenges when you were trying to do that, or did it sort of fall together?
I think it fell together, and I tried to build spirit. I'm sort of a crazy rah-rah, and I remember at a lot of our events, we were building spirit. One of the things I wanted to do, and I don't think we've ever been able to accomplish this, when I was in law school, I remember my law school had a tradition of every 5 years having class reunions. We never seem to have class reunions at the University of Pittsburgh. So one of the things I thought, well, let's start, why don't we have, my class of 1970, Arts and Sciences, we've never had a class reunion. Can we do something like that just to try to build, unity, or to give give folks a reason to come back and reunite with their classmates? So we tried to do that. I don't think we've ever really succeeded in having, a tradition here of alumni feeling that, okay, every 5 years on a certain weekend, whether it's homecoming, whether it's sometime in the spring. Now, I think some schools of the university do, because it's a tradition. But for me, coming out of arts and sciences, and maybe it's because it was such a morass of just so big and just not anything that really would unify. So we tried to do that, and I don't think we really succeeded in doing that. But it was an idea, and I was trying to build, as I think we've continued to do in other ways, just give people a reason to reunite, and coming back to Pitt and reuniting with fellow Pitt graduates.
And do you remember any major accomplishments of the university?
My year was 1989, and of course, one of the things that was still very much in the air, we had just come off 2 years earlier, the celebration of the bicentennial, and that was just a fabulous. I still remember, I think we had a black tie event, and as you may remember, the university had renovated the William Pitt Union, and so I think in terms of with the bicentennial, seeing that beautiful new renovated ballroom and the William Pitt Union, and just all the excitement over the bicentennial, I think was still sort of carrying over. I, of course, as a sports fan, I remember, 1989, Mike Gottfried was still the football coach. We went to a bowl game that year. So there was a lot of enthusiasm. I think basketball was doing very well. And we were in sort of the final years of the Posvar administration. But again, it's still in the glow, I think, of 200 years, the history of the University of Pittsburgh. So, and building on that. So.
How do you see the association when you were president, and maybe now, because you have a different view, as being a valued partner?
Oh my goodness! I think we were a baby when I was. Even though maybe the organization had been around for a long time in name, we were an infant, truly an infant. Now you've got I think a fully developed adult organization that is just, I think, not only thriving in terms of what it does, in terms of just growing and the folks, building membership, building it, but I think the credibility of the organization with the administration, with the university, I mean, we had none of that, at least my recollection back then, we were not really impactful with respect to, or maybe even, and it was because we were just a fledgling organization, and now I think you have a fully developed association that is a participant and an active partner in government relations, fundraising, et cetera, and all the things that alumni associations, I think, are meant to be. Meaning you're not off doing your own thing, developing your own mission, but you are a supporting organization for the university. So no, I applaud all the leaders that have come after. I mean, 1989 seems like eons ago, and we had very, very, very raw infant organization that's now thriving and still growing. But I think it's truly, I think, been just marvelous to watch how it has gone from virtually nothing into what it is today, and a meaningful partner, a truly meaningful partner in the university.
I couldn't have scripted you better,
Was that okay? Are we
great.
done?
Is there anything else? I mean, anything you'd like to say? Because
Well,
about the university, about the association, about your
I was absolutely honored and thrilled and flabbergasted when I was asked to serve as president of the Alumni Association. And I think that I truly love the university. It's been a big part of my life since the day I set foot on campus in 1966. Sort of interesting, I think when I came here, Pitt was a private institution, and we went state-related as I arrived in the fall of 1966, but to just see how the university right now, I believe right now that we are in the glorious days of the University of Pittsburgh. I think Chancellor Nordenberg, in my view, will go down in history and should go down in history as the greatest chancellor this university has ever known. We are at the top of, I mean, it's just, for me, I'm just so thrilled and honored to see, you know, how the university and the reputation of the university has been enhanced so much. And frankly, when I was president of the Alumni Association, we were struggling a little bit, I think, in terms of reputation at that time, particularly in the undergraduate, with respect to undergraduate recruitment. And, you know, we were locally perhaps viewed as a safety school for some of the high schools in this area. And you know what? We're nobody's safety school anymore. So.